Okay, so I'm sitting here at our Airways Aviation office in Dubai, and I see a few people participating already. All right. So I will let you start with the basic introductions, and I'll let you lead the seminar for the next few minutes.
Good evening to all the students who are here today, and hope everybody is safe and sound and doing well at their respective home. So today Gyanberry, along with Airways Aviation, are hosting this webinar for all the future pilots who are interested to know how to go about the whole process, and also if pilot is their career and if they can opt for that career. So we have with us pilot Rizwan Taj. He is the admission consultant from Airways Aviation, and myself, Ms. Pranali Damankar. I'm the director for university partnerships at Gyanberry. So together we are going to host this webinar for all of you guys. And we as Gyanberry, obviously, I'm sure I will not take more time, but you are already aware of who we are as Gyanberry. But just to sum it up, we're going to provide you with one-on-one assistance, guidance throughout the admission process for the Airways Aviation. Now, obviously, these assistance is going to be free of charge. However, students who are interested in the assessment test specifically for the Airways Aviation, they will have to pay for the test. And we are also going to have something called as one-on-one mentoring with the senior students of Airways Aviation, which is going to be on our platform. I'm sure if everybody is aware, if not, we have in our services, which is providing Super Mentor. Now, Super Mentor is a service where we are hosting for our students or future aspect students who are wishing or wanting to know and understand from the senior students or the existing students who are currently studying with respective universities. So in this case, it's the Airways Aviation. And of course, the whole agenda of today's webinar is going to be 60 minutes, presentation for 15 to 30 minutes, and followed by the Q&A. So I hand over this to Rizwan, and Rizwan, you can take it forward from here.
Thank you so much, Pranali. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. And for everyone watching this live, and for everybody else who's going to be watching this session recorded later, you could be sitting anywhere else in the world right now, and you might be wondering, is really this the right time to jump into the aviation industry? I know I would like to address the elephant in the room before we even begin, because a lot of students in the last few years have always been worrying if aviation is the right thing, especially the pandemic has caused some serious concerns. And I do understand what people might be thinking. Yes, the aviation industry was hit pretty bad in the last 1 year, but I must also tell you that aviation industry has completely turned around in the last few months. The aviation industry is out of the pandemic officially. The travel industry has gone back into the rebound, as we call the reflux, revenge travel. So every other airline, as I speak, as of today, Emirates, Etihad, Fly Dubai, every single airline in the Middle East has already announced that they're hiring thousands of staff, if not for hundreds. So I would like to start off with the good news that yes, aviation industry is back, and aviation industry's return was inevitable. I know a lot of people were negative about it for the last 1 year, but yes, we have seen such situations happen in the last 3-4 decades, and the aviation industry will always come back no matter what the problem is, and it'll always shoot and double and triple in the next few years. So that being said, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Pilot Rizwan Taj. I'm one of the pilot instructors in the academy. I've been working for Airways Aviation for the last 7 years in multiple departments. I take care of the admissions, selections. I also worked as a CTKI, which is the Chief Theory Knowledge Instructor of the entire academy. And I am currently going live from Airways Aviation office in Dubai. We have a bunch of offices around the globe. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my screen share. I would like to show you a small presentation. We will be happy to answer any of your questions. And if people watching this live later on, you have more questions, just feel free to email Gyanberry. They will coordinate and they'll answer questions. If you want to directly get in touch with me, you can do that as well. You can get in touch with us at info@airwaysaviation.com. Just mention you're asking questions with regards to the Gyanberry seminar, and we will get back to you if you're watching this later. All right, so I would request the host right now to give me the access to share my screen, and I would like to have a small PowerPoint presentation to show you different things about Airways Aviation, the industry, and so on. I'm going to get my PowerPoint up and running. Let me try to... Pranali, I think you're the host right now, so you would have to click on my name and make me the host. Meanwhile, I would like to continue talking about the dynamic changes which are happening in the industry as I speak. I was just visiting one of our branches around the world. So we've got Airways Aviation France, which is the head office. All right, I'm the host now. Thank you so much, Pranali. I'm going to go ahead and start my screen share. Share screen. Stop. 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and do the screen share. Microsoft PowerPoint share. Okay. It's asking me to open the system preferences. 1 second. Right. So while it opens up, I'm just going to continue talking about the different branches of Airways Aviation to begin with. Airways Aviation, it originally started from Australia. And what happens is, originally Airways Aviation was into helicopters and airplanes. And that's how we started off in Gold Coast International Airport. We are currently no longer doing helicopters, and that's one of the things I wanted to clarify. All right, could you please confirm if you are able to see my screen? Pranali, if you could just give me a nudge if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much for that, Pranali. All right, moving on, guys. We started off back in Australia, and now we're a global academy with branches all around the world. Let's start with a small introduction. Now, our network, we've had pilot training academies all the way in Europe and Australia. We also have our pilot training locations in Turkey, which is being set up as we speak. We have a successful running Airways Aviation location in Beirut, Lebanon. We have 2 locations in Australia, the Gold Coast, Australia, which is one of our most famous and most amazing locations. And we also have Lismore in Australia. And obviously the head office, the headquarters being Montpellier, south of France. These are our operational locations right now. The mission and vision of the Academy. Well, obviously the mission and vision is quite simple: to be the global leaders in aviation. We are already in the top 3 global aviation academies around the world. We don't just do pilot training. A lot of people consider us to be just a pilot training academy, but we also do everything from aircraft maintenance, ground handling, and also the cabin crew, all the basic stuff, everything under the wing and everything above the wing, as we like to call it. We also offer European YASA license, the Australian CASA license, and we also offer the International Civil Aviation Organization approved ICAO licenses in Turkey and in Lebanon. So these are the different ranges of licenses we offer. Let me start with this image. I hope you guys can see see the images clearly. So as you can see, if you look at the entire history of aviation in the last 100 years, yes, you can see that the aviation industry has seen downfalls and downturns. But if you look at the long term, it's only been a tiny blip on the graph. Yes, the 9/11 was a horrible time for the aviation and it did go through a pretty bad time. But if you look at the graph, it was only a tiny little bit. But if you were in that time of the decade, you would have thought that the aviation industry is plunging down. But it did go back again, better than before. Let's look at the SARS. Yes, there was a little bit of a panic because of SARS, in the early 2000s, a small dip again. But 2008 saw one of the worst world recession with the aviation industry. Everybody kept saying, oh, it's the end of the industry the way we knew it. But no, it did not. It was again a tiny little down graph, and then it took off again. But what I also want you to observe and notice is that every 10 years, every 15 years, sorry to be precise, the industry doubled in its revenue. If you look at the revenue chart on the left and the timeline on the bottom, aviation industry is never going to die, and it will only keep increasing. The more people fly, the more people travel, the more the world continues to travel, it will only keep increasing. So this is one of the things I want to address even before we start. That if anybody tells you that, oh, you're not going to get a pilot job, you're not going to, yes, there are some concerns which people have had, which were true for a certain time of the year. Right now, every other airline in Europe is hiring everybody's going back to the crazy demand. So I wouldn't be worried about that. I do feel bad about students who graduated in the middle of the pandemic. I know students who graduated from Airways Aviation in the first wave. They had to wait for a year to get their first job. Yes, I feel bad for them, but that was the pandemic. Now the students who are going to start their training are not going to complete their pilot training tomorrow. You're going to complete your pilot training in approximately 2 years from now if you start today. By then, the aviation world is going to be completely crazy. Everybody's been talking about Boeing and Airbus just last week announced the crazy high numbers of pilot requirements for 2025, and the numbers are staggering. So let's move on. An overview of Airways Aviation. As I mentioned already, we do the European EASA license, we have the Australian CASA license, and we also offer the ICAO, the Civil Aviation Authority license in Turkey, Montenegro, Lebanon, and so on. We also do the maintenance part 144. There's a number of details. We'll go into the details later. The global summary. Airways Aviation globally has trained in excess of 8,000 airline pilots, and we're quite proud about the number. We also have more than 12,000 cabin crew in circulation right now around the world who graduated from our academy. We also have the maintenance, and these numbers, as you can see, 3,000 aircraft maintenance, ground handling 10,000, and so on. Now, these are our primary locations: Montenegro, France, Australia. We also have the Lebanon and Turkey, as I mentioned. One of the best things about Airways Aviation is its fleet. We have one of the best aircrafts in the world, the Diamond DA-40, 42, Cessna 172s, and so on. And if you go on our news column, you'll actually see that the aircraft manufacturing company Diamond, the pictures you see, they've made a report about us saying we have the highest Diamond aircrafts owned by any pilot training academy in the world. We have an excess of 45 aircrafts, which is the first in Europe and the second highest in the entire world. And that is an article by the manufacturer themselves, right? So Montpellier, our head office in France, a picture from our main head office. We've got a lot of different courses there, as I mentioned. The campus, aerial view of the campus. Without going through every tiny little statement here, because it's going to take a very long time, I'm going to go through the basics, right? The campus has accommodation. The campus has the runways. We have the exclusive hangars. We have the entire facility. We have a massive facility. And the best thing about Airways Aviation France is the beautiful weather, 300 days a year. Now, yes, there are some pros and cons of every branch. Airways Aviation France happens to be the best licensing authority, the best pilot training location. It'll also be the most expensive Airways Aviation branch. So students might want to see the pros and cons, and based on their budget, based on the license they need, might want to choose between Airways Aviation Australia, Airways Aviation France, Airways Aviation Lebanon, or Airways Aviation Turkey, based on their requirements. I'll go through that in a while. We do everything in France, from the basic ATPL, CPL, the multi-engine instrument rating. These are the different types of pilot training courses you can do. Maybe you don't want to do an ATPL. If you're a student from India or most of the Asian countries, you don't need a European airline transport pilot license. You can do just a basic CPL from Lebanon or from Australia. It's cost effective, and only European nationals are going to be very keen on getting an ATPL license from France and spending double the money. Literally, yes, you heard me right. Doing the pilot training in Airways Aviation France could almost be double compared to Airways Aviation Australia. But then again, there are some good reasons on why that might be beneficial for you. But again, it's not for everyone. Every student has his own pathway, and a person from Europe might do a different style of training. A person from Australia or India could all do a different style of training. So that's why we do one-on-one counseling sessions. It's a free one-on-one counseling session where we understand your requirements, your background, your nationality, your job requirements, and then advise you the best pathway to become a pilot. We also, as I mentioned, the workshop, the ground handling, and so on. Now, the only problem is that currently we're doing these courses only in French, the aircraft maintenance, the ground handling, and the cabin crew. We will hopefully very soon start in English early next year. But as of now, I cannot confirm and I cannot advertise these courses to be conducted in English until we actually start doing them in English, hopefully beginning of next year. So for now, if you're planning on doing anything in aircraft maintenance immediately, we would ask you to wait for a few months until we get the approvals to do it in English. Because historically, we've only done aircraft maintenance and cabin crew training in France in French, which will hopefully... Now, the accommodation, right? We take care of all the accommodation. Same with Airways Aviation Australia, France, Lebanon, Turkey. Any branch of Airways Aviation has the same system. We have the accommodations taken care of. We've got the in-house accommodation, especially in France. The accommodation is inside the Montpellier airport in France. We will be sharing a PDF format of this PowerPoint presentation with Pranali, and she can share it with you guys as well so that you can go through all the tiny details if you're more interested. But a general summary, you can either do a private pilot license, which does not entitle you to be an airline pilot or a commercial pilot, but it's just for fun and leisure for your friends and family. Or you can be a commercial pilot where you can fly smaller planes, work for money, get paid. Or you can be an ATPL license holder, which guarantees you an airline job in Europe. So then we also have other programs where we don't just offer you a pilot training degree, but also a bachelor's in aviation. So if you can see on my screen on the bottom, there's the Bachelor's of Business Aviation Management combined with the commercial pilot license with the multi-engine. Now, this is quite a popular course in Australia, and also we have in France and in Lebanon. All branches of Airways Aviation has some university partnership in their own city where you can do the pilot training with Airways Aviation Academy in the airport. You walk outside, there's a nearby university where you do a degree program, Bachelor's in Aviation, and at the end of the 3 years, you've done half and half. At the end of 3 years, you have a 3-year bachelor's degree in aviation, and you also have the pilot training, flight training courses completed. So that's quite a great course we have in Australia and France as well. And more pictures from our training center in France. Again, these are only for French speaking people, so I'm going to skip through them right now. Now, Australia, the campus. Airways Aviation Australia's campus on the right, you see a picture, and then on the left, you see the Southern Cross University, which is our partner in Australia. So literally, they're 12 minutes away from each other, right across the airport in Gold Coast International. Students would go to the Australia's Airways Aviation campus for flying in the morning, and then later in the afternoon, they could go to the university courses. So you're doing both the courses together, and it's an integrated program where you can graduate from a bachelor's degree and the flight training. Now, as I was mentioning already, we have the global fleet of excess. Technically, if you include Australia, Lebanon, France, we have an excess of 50 aircrafts. And also, we've copy-pasted the statement, which was used by the Diamond Aircraft Manufacturing Company on their news column. You can actually check out on our website under the news. We have a link to that page as well. The Airways Aviation Group owns and operates the largest fleet of Diamond DA-40-42 pilot training aircraft in Europe and one of the largest in the world. And this is just the headlines of the article. You can see the entire detailed article on the aircraft manufacturer's website, and the link is on our news website as well. Different types of aircraft. On the right top, you see a Cessna 172, which is what we use in Australia. On the left, you see is what we would use in Europe. It's a Diamond DA-40. The bottom two pictures are a multi-engine Diamond DA-42. More pictures from our aircrafts, more pictures of our aircrafts from different branches of Airways Aviation. The single engine, which you see, is a Diamond DA-40, and the twin engine, the two propeller planes you see, is a DA-42, state-of-the-art aircraft, one of the best for training. More pictures from our academy again. Our simulators. Now, we obviously don't just throw you in a plane and start the pilot training, right? So we need to make sure that you understand the basics. So we do that slow and steady. We put you in a simulator like this, where you go through all the simulator, how the procedures work. Once you're well versed with the techniques, that's when we take you inside. So some of the simulators we have been all named. I know this is very technical. The names of those simulators mean something, but if you Google these, you'll actually find out that FNPT Type 2 is one of the best simulators, is actually the best simulators for pilot training across the globe. And we've got a bunch of these simulators. More pictures of our simulators. Now, the reason why we feel extremely proud about Airways Aviation is either the fleets or the instructors, because technically speaking, those are the only two things you need in an academy. You could go to a pilot training academy across the globe, and the only two things which matter are the actual instructors and the fleet, because pilot training is not done in a classroom. It's only 20% theory and 80% is on flight training. So the beautiful blue sky is your campus, and that's where you study. That's where you do your flying, and that's where you actually learn. So if you don't have a good instructor, if you don't have a good aircraft, it's as good as you have nothing. Again, for cabin crew training, CCTO, French nationals only. So for now, I'm going to skip through that. But yes, we do, we still require them to have an English, exam completed when you do the cabin crew training and so on. MTO, the Maintenance Training Organization, again, currently for French nationals and French-speaking people, but soon will open for English-speaking people as well. The great thing is about the Maintenance Training Organization, we're approved by the French government, and even the presidential flights I kid you not, if you go to our Airways Aviation social media and check out a few posts a few months ago, we had posted pictures of the presidential fleet of France. Literally, Macron and all of their aircrafts were being maintained in our facility. We are the official government's maintenance training organization and maintenance facility for even the presidential aircrafts in Montpellier airport. So that's pretty good. We've got pretty good first class facilities all around the world in Europe, France, Australia, Lebanon. I mean, I was in Airways Aviation Lebanon for the last 10 days. Contradictory to what I'd heard for the last few months, it was the most safest and the most peaceful time I've had in the last 1 year. Airways Aviation Lebanon did much better than any other pilot training academy in the Middle East. We did not stop even for a day, and throughout the pandemic, we kept flying. And I think, even some of the affordable options, such as Airways Aviation Lebanon, has the same first class facilities, the training. You can check out Airways Aviation Lebanon Instagram page. And you'll see that what we have for students in Airways Aviation Australia or Airways Aviation France is the same what we would have for students in Airways Aviation Lebanon and Airways Aviation Turkey as well, which will hopefully open in Jan of 2022. Airways Aviation Turkey is going to be on the map. More pictures from our first class facilities, more pictures from our hangars, and we also have areas where students can chill and relax. So we've taken care of everything, including accommodation, as I mentioned, and more pictures from our on-site accommodation in our campus. The approvals. Now, this is quite important. We are approved from a number of organizations around the world: the International Civil Aviation Organization, the UK Civil Aviation, the European YASA, the Australian CASA, the Chinese CAAC, Montenegro. There's a number of these organizations who have approved. And the most important one I would like to talk about here is CRICOS on the bottom left. I'm sure Pranali probably knows about this, and anybody who works with universities in Australia knows about the importance of CRICOS. This is something which Europe and most of the other parts of the world don't have. Now, because we are approved by CRICOS and Airways Aviation Australia, CRICOS is a government organization who manages the money. Students make the payments, and it's fully locked in an escrow account managed by the government organization called CRICOS. God forbid now, like something goes wrong and you get kicked out, you fail the exams, or God forbid some flight schools have gone bankrupt in the past, and the students are held with a lot of stress. That could never happen in Australia unless the school is not approved by CRICOS. There's a lot of pilot training academies in Australia who don't have the CRICOS approval because they don't want to follow it for some reason, but we are fully approved by CRICOS for the last 12 years. We've had students who were terminated because they were extremely bad. There are some students who will be bad and they will fail. The students don't have to run around asking for us to refund. They can just go to CRICOS and ask them, refund me back my unused amount of money. So Airways Aviation Australia can only withdraw a certain amount of money from CRICOS as and then the students finish a stage. Once you finish the PPL pilot training stage, 47 hours of flying completed, that's when Airways Aviation gets to take a little bit more money from the CRICOS. Even though the student has already paid the money, it is not being utilized by us. And that's a safety net, which only Airways Aviation Australia offers, which is one of the reasons why a lot of Asians, Indians, Pakistanis would normally choose to go to Airways Aviation Australia for that. Also, France is double compared to the price of Airways Aviation Australia. So Australia is a good option when it comes to that. The only problem is the pandemic has left Australia borders closed for the last 1.5 years. Hopefully they should be opening beginning of next year. So those are the pros and cons. The airlines we work with, now Air Arabia and all of these other names you see, we can provide you all the documentations required to prove that how our graduates are working with them. Airways Aviation graduates have been working with all of these airlines around the world. There are some of these other organizations which have been working with us as well. This is quite important. These are some of the aircraft manufacturing companies, and this is some of the different things we work with, all these big aviation companies who have recognized us and our training. Financial partners. Now, this page is only for European nationals. If you're a European national, there are some banks in Europe who will give you the loan. Thank you so much. It's lovely. Then there is a few study loans for Australian nationals only. So I wouldn't really talk much about this page because it's only for either if you're a French national, European national, or an Australian national. But then again, I know from a lot of students who are from India and other regional countries who were able to access educational loans from their own home countries. But then again, that was something they did by themselves. I wouldn't be able to point you in the right direction. But I know for a fact we've had at least 6 students in the last 5 years from India who told me that they did their pilot training on educational loan. I did my entire pilot training on an educational loan from India as well. So I know for a fact it does work. It is a bit difficult, I do agree, but it's not impossible. So that being said, the graduate employment track, a few more airlines. These are some of the most exclusive airlines who work with us. Kuwait Airways, Jazeera Airline, and all of these names you see have hired the most number of students from our academy. And then this is an old picture. Obviously, we have a lot more followers now. This is a very old picture. I would advise you to follow us on Instagram. So we've got the Airways Aviation global page. Then we also have Airways Aviation Australia, we have Airways Aviation Turkey, Airways Aviation Lebanon. So you can either follow individual branches if you're interested in a specific location, or I would invite you to go and follow Airways Aviation Instagram. The one you will see just has Airways Aviation without the name of any other country, and that has more than 12,000 followers, and that global page will give you updates from every branch around the world. And probably that would be the best thing for you to do. Again, more pictures from our academy in France, more picture from France again. This is our picture from our facility in Australia, which is my favorite, one of the best locations to do the training. Another picture from our another location. So we've got Gold Coast International Airport and we've got Lismore Airport. Another picture from Airways Aviation Montenegro. And that brings us to the end of our session for now. And I will let you guys ask me any questions if you have. If you don't have any questions, I'll go through some of the most common questions. Maybe Pranali has a number of questions for people who might be listening to this video later on. So Pranali, I will go ahead and cancel my screen share.
Thank you so much for your time. I think it was amazing. And I'm sure today all our participants are completely trying to digest the information, and hopefully we will see them soon, maybe in person. But thank you very much, and thank you so much, participants, for today being with us for the webinar. I think it was very fruitful. So take care, all of you all, and be safe, and hope to see you all soon at the Gyanberry office. Thank you. Thank you, Rizwan. Thank you so much for your time.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.